We got to talk about this now because time is running out. This is not the 2008 housing market, and it's not going to be anything like it. Now, you don't have to take it from me. I'm going to bring you more details from experts. The first one is going to be Lawrence Yun, who is the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors. He drew a comparison to today's market and the previous one that everybody likes to talk about, which is 2008. And he said, today is nothing like 15 years ago. And he compared key variables in that last housing cycle from 2008 to today. So when we talk about job cuts, the net of gains and losses, in 2008, there were 8 million job cuts. Today, none in comparison. When we talk about total jobs, and this is from a household survey, in 2008, there were only 138 million jobs. And in today's cycle, there's 158 million. We talk about subprime loans. In 2008, they were prevalent. These are bad loans. These were stated income, people lying about what they say they can do, just kind of rounding up. And the lenders are just like, yeah, it's fine, man. Go ahead. I got you. I believe you. They got the mortgages. What happens? They couldn't afford them. So now the foreclosure started to stack up. People were giving back the houses. And the market crumbled because of that bad paper. But right now, there are virtually none of those types of loans. The next thing he said was when we look at new construction, in the previous 5 years, there was 7.65 million. Today, 4.6 million. That difference is significant. When we talk about inventory on the market, there was nearly 4 million houses available on the market. Right now, it's 1 to 1.2 million. Depending on who you ask, we're short 2 to 4 million homes in inventory. And that means that there's enough supply to meet the demand. So back in 2008, that supply was near what the total would have been today to meet that demand. But now we're less than half of what we need, depending on who you talk to. Again, 2 to 4 million. He said that the mortgage delinquency rate was 10.1. Today it's 3.6, basically a third of the mortgage delinquency that we had back in 2008. And lastly, the number of homes in foreclosure was 4.6. Almost 5% of homes are in foreclosure. Today, 0.6, basically none in comparison. So if you hear somebody talking about how we're going to see all these foreclosures come out, and there has been a moratorium on foreclosures in recent years. The District of Columbia, DC, they've been very slow to roll those out. They've been giving people a lot of time to be able to get things sorted out. They have programs to help you pay up arrears and come current. There's a lot of great stuff out there. So, they have that, but there are foreclosures and they haven't necessarily been released. According to Lawrence, the amount of foreclosures that are going to come out is less than 20% of what you were looking at back then. Not even 1 full percent versus almost 5%. So if you're talking about 0.6% versus 4.6%, do you think you're going to see a flood that's going to saturate the market when we still have millions and millions of homes that we're short in order to be able to feed the desire, to feed the need that we have in the market right now? I don't think so. So where does all of this lead us? It leads us to coming to the conclusion that this is a very different housing market, which is what I've been saying. If you watch my other housing videos, I talk about how they're lying to you about what's happening in the market. And why is this important to you? Okay, David Stevens, who is the former Assistant Secretary of Housing, he says, so be advised, this may be the one and only window for the next few years to get into a buyer's market. And remember, as the Federal Reserve data shows, home prices only go up and always recover from recessions, no matter how mild or severe. Long-term homeowners should view this market right now as a unique buying opportunity. Did you hear what he said?
Right now, this is a unique buying opportunity.
So let's run through what we're looking at and what you're up against. Last week, a good buddy of mine, he moved out to California. He's an attorney. He called me up and he asked me what I thought about this. I talked to him for a whole hour about this. And that's why I'm making this video. Because at the end of that, the next day he says, Cedric, you know what? Talk to the wife. We're going to go. We can't afford to wait. He took the advice and now they're making the move. So what is it that's happening right now? Okay, so this is the end of the period where people have been coming off of the holidays. People are still kind of in a lull. People are just going back to work, right? And there's a lot of people that are still experiencing sticker shock from 7% interest rates. That means that the competition isn't out there right now. You know, if there's a home that went on the market in November or December, if you're a seller and you weren't able to sell that home because it really wasn't a great time to put that home out there in the first place, we're seeing price reductions 40, 50 plus $1,000 on certain homes. We're seeing home inspections. We're seeing 45-day closings. If you're gonna buy a house right now, this is when you can get a freaking deal. Do you hear what I'm saying? If a seller is on the market right now, it's because they need to sell. They're waiting for you, okay? But this isn't gonna last forever because it's already a mild winter. So when March comes, people are gonna start to get back out there. So who's the competition and who are these people that are gonna get back out there and why? We understand that the interest rate is high right now, but it's not like the interest rate has been 3% for the last 20 years. So when we look at mortgage rates over time, this is historical data that I've pulled, and we're talking about over the last 41 years, but I'm only gonna take you to a certain section of this because it's really the most important. If we focus on just the year 2001 to 2021, so the last 20 years, we don't have the full data for 2022 yet. You see 2021, almost 7%, 2022, 6.5%. And then we started to get that hot market. You remember that hot market? 2003, 2004 through 2007, the one that we just finished talking about before the crash in 08? Well, at that time, those rates were what? 5.83, 5.84, 2005, 5.87, 2006, 6.41. But now things are starting to change in 06. 06, 07, 08 is when the crash came. 6.41, 6.34. And in 08, when the crash came, 6%. When everything was flying off the shelf, interest rates were almost 6%, 5.84 and 5.87. That's great. That's fantastic. So when we get back to 2009 and 2010, 2011, well, that's when things start to change a little bit because the market was depressed at that time. And that's when you start to see those rates really, really go down into a slump when the market is depressed. So we had that depressed market, and starting in 2010, now we dipped below the fours. And we stayed below the fours pretty much for the last decade and a little bit after that. But there's fluctuations here. So if we do an average of these rates here, we're in a low four. We're not quite in the super low period that we got to a little bit later. And keep in mind, in 2020, another depressed market that went into a boom market. So it was kind of crazy. And so people had to catch up because nobody thought that things would fly off the shelf and take off the way that they did. So what happened in 2020 and 2021? Well, people have access to more money. Generally speaking, people are making more money in comparison, inflation aside. But there's also stimulus, right? There's also the incentive packages. There's people working from home. So they're saving money that they would use on expenses and commuting and things of that nature. If you put that together with people that need to move, if they're going to areas where they can get more bang for their buck, and then the rates go down to 3% or lower, well, now you have a real situation. And there's a lot of people that were afraid to sell their houses. So that led to fighting over homes because there weren't enough of them. And we still haven't recovered from that fight. But the point is, interest rates haven't been 3% for the last 30 years. They haven't been 4% for the last 30 years, or even the last 15 years. The next thing that's going to happen is people's income tax checks are going to come back. Oh, I can use this for a down payment. You're going to start to see more home buying incentive programs. We're already starting to see these 2-to-1s, these different kind of buy the home now, and you can get the seller to buy into your closing costs to buy down your rate. Lenders are getting real tricky doing all these different unique kinds of things because they need you to be able to buy a house because that's how they get paid. So lenders are working deals with you. They're going to do things to incentivize your competition to get out here and make a purchase. At some point this year, that rate's going to go down. The national average of equity for homes in America is about 3% per annum. Okay? So let's take the example of a $500,000 house. We're at $500,000 for the house. The equity will go up 1.5%, not even the 3% average. We're going to cut that in half. So we go up 1.5%, and that's going to give us $7,500. That's what the house will be worth a year from today versus what it would be if you put it under contract now. Now the question is, if you bought that house a year from today and you didn't break that lease, Are you saving more than $7,500 by doing that? Today, you could buy that house for $7,500 less. Are you going to do something with your rental, with your apartment, townhome, whatever you're renting, that's going to cause you to save more than the house would cost if you bought it a year from today? If you are going to stay in the house for more than 3 years, you have to look at your individual situation. How long are you going to be in the area? So if you're going to be in the area for more than 3 to 5 years, I think you could benefit from this thing that's called a refinance. If you've heard of that, drop a comment. If we don't get enough inventory and people are out here trying to buy houses during the spring and the summer, the hottest times of year, they're going to drive those prices up just a little bit. And I know you're like, but wait a minute. You said $50,000 and $60,000 price reductions. Yes, that's because people aren't buying right now, and it's the damn winter. And those are houses that have been on the market when it was cold and or during the holidays. And people are still in sticker shock. So if you remove all of those factors, and you know that people have school districts that they want to get into, they have leases that are about to be due, let me ask you a question. I'm almost done. Do you think, when we talk about 2008, the Great Recession, all of this crap that you see on these news channels, how, the market is about to crash, which is a lie. Do you think that people are going to stop moving? Do you think that no one will move this year? Do you really believe that? Do you think that everyone that's in a rental property will stay there? By the way, there's a lot of areas where there's no rent control. When your lease is up, they want to raise it by $500, $600, $700, which has been happening. They can do that. So now you got the difference in your new mortgage versus the difference in your new rent, which you reap zero benefits from. There's still tax incentives and all kinds of things that come from owning a piece of property, not to mention that equity that I told you about earlier. You got to do the math. But listen, if you're only going to be in the area for 18 months, forget everything I said. Share the video with someone that can hear. If you are going to be in a home for 3, 4, 5+ years, this is a real consideration, and you're leaving money on the table. You're going to look back at this, put it in a time capsule. You're going to look back at it, and you'll be like, damn, that brown guy on the internet that I never met, he was saying something right. He was telling the truth. Fox News and MSNBC and CNN, they lied to me. Wherever you go, Yahoo, I don't know. I don't want to dissuade people. I want to make sure people have good information. This is not going to last forever. I think you got about 60 days to get into this market, to put a house under contract before you start to see things change. I firmly believe that the rates will get back into the 5s this year, and when they do, people will get off the fence. And now you got to fight those people because there still aren't enough damn houses for you to get into and get what you want. Share this with somebody that it matters to. You can even tell me why you think that the market will go in a different direction. I want to hear about it, okay? We're here to learn. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. We're here for you. I'm telling you what I know. Please take good care of yourself, make good decisions.